Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting for the Board of Public Works for today, Friday, February 15th, 2019.
Commissioner Garcia, Cabello, James, and Davis are present. President James, we do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Sherman Torres, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Richard Sargumba, Street Lighting.
Good morning, Khalil Garders, Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Michael Patnay, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, John Olinger, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did receive a speaker card today under general public comment. We have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We also received a speaker card on item number 9 for today's agenda, regular agenda.
Okay, so let's, we've got a special, but the special's calendared for 10:15. Let's go ahead and take general public comment. Dr. Williams.
Good morning. Dr. Tom Williams, Citizens Coalition for Safe Communities, Sierra Club, and a couple others. Also, Neighborhood Council now. Real problem. On Wednesday, there was a meeting sponsored by the Bureau of Engineering. However, they quickly gave it over to the Department of City Planning for the Civic Center design guidelines. Unfortunately, I was trained by Parsons, and the whole system fell apart, as indicated by the fact that on their comment cards, there's no due date, there's no description as to when this was done or why it was done, and to whom it's to be submitted, and for what purposes. It's just total waste of 30 people's time that evening. However, I am asking for a PRA request. That is, I want to see all of the scope, schedule, costs, and MOAs, MOUs, and any other agreement and communications between Bureau of Engineering and Department of City Planning regarding who's in charge of the Civic Center design guidelines and the consultants, because it was a shambles on Wednesday night. No real purpose was given for a meeting of 30 people, 68. It only went on till 7:30. Everyone got bored and left because nobody knew what was going to be done at the meeting. The flyers, the outreach just wasn't there. If you're going to be in charge of it, Bureau of Engineering, do it right. Because after 30 years with Parsons, I was, might say, somewhat knowledgeable.
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Engineering.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
No other general public comment cards. We'll close general public comment. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Monday, January 14th, 2019 by Commissioner Cabello? Any objection? Without objection, we will approve those meeting minutes. Agenda item number 8, specifications submitted for board adoption and authorization to advertise for the invitation of bids. This is in Council District number 4 for the Wilshire Boulevard, Curson Avenue to Cochran Avenue, and Mansfield Avenue to Wilton Place improvement project. It's a surface transportation program street lighting project. The estimate's $2,448,200. The bid receipt date is April 3rd, 2019. Is there a second to my motion that we adopt agenda item number 8 forthwith by Commissioner Garcia? Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number 7, a requested bid withdrawal, North Hollywood Sewer Maintenance Yard, recommending that the board approve the request from Far West Constructors Corporation to withdraw their bid that was submitted on January 16, 2019, in connection with the North Hollywood Sewer Maintenance Yard, with the understanding that in accordance with the Public Contracting Code, the Board of Public Works will not accept a bid from Far West Constructors Corp. in the event the project is re-advertised. Jesus Faltamilas. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, President James and Commissioners. I have a handout of the bid results.
Right.
And, it clearly looks like they've made a mistake. Everybody else is like over 10 million, and in Far West bid, it's 2 million. So it's a clear clerical error. So we submit that this Far West contractors withdraw their bid at this point.
Okay, Mr. Jordan, any issues or questions, and what's your opinion on it?
I concur with the Bureau's recommendation, both on the basis and also the timing of the request. So I concur in the recommendation.
Okay, any questions? Commissioner Garcia has made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 7, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 7. Any issue sending number 7 forthwith? We will send number 7 forthwith. Agenda item number 6, Authority for Expenditure, South Coast Air Quality Management District. Bureau of Sanitation and Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $30,000 to pay for the South Coast Air Quality Management District Title V fees, health risk fees, and other required mandated fees for the current fiscal year 18-19. Michael Fan. Good morning, sir.
Morning, President James and commissioners. So this authority for expenditure is for, as mentioned, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and also as mentioned for Title V health risk and other required fees for operating equipment and flares. So the amount we're requesting is an amount of $30,000, and these fees are based on pollutant emissions and number of operating equipment. I was just wondering, do you have any questions?
Any questions for the requirement that we have to pay these fees? Commissioner Cabello has made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 6, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt agenda item number 6. Mr. Fan, I see that you're here on number 5 as well.
Yes.
Authority for Expenditure, State Water Resources Control Board. Sanitation and the Office of Accounting are requesting board approval and execution of an authority for expenditure in the amount of $130,000 to pay for the annual waste discharge fee as required by the State of California State Water Resources Control Board, a state regulatory agency pursuant to California Water Code Section 13260. Mr. Fan on number 5.
Yes, so this is for our annual permit, which is required in order to discharge or process wastewater produced by a Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant, and it's in the amount of $130,000.
Okay, any questions? Commissioner Cabello has made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 5, seconded by Commissioners Davis and Garcia. Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 5. Any issue sending number 5 forthwith? We'll send number 5 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We don't have any speaker cards on number 4, do we, Dr. Campos?
I did not receive any. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, let's go ahead and take, actually, let's go ahead and do number 2. We've got a lease authorization on agenda item number 2, 3100 West Sunset Boulevard, Council District 13, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to acquire and negotiate for the lease of parking on the real property located at 3100 West Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles, 90026, of assessor parcel 5426016-008, as required for the completion of the Descanso Drive at West Sunset Boulevard Street Reconstruction Project. Authorize the Director of the Office of Accounting, Board of Public Works to draw a demand in the amount of $90,000 payable to 3100 West Sunset Boulevard to cover the acquisition of 4-month lease parking needed for the project, and authorize $50,000 in additional contingency and approve a revised construction budget of $3,343,773 for the project. One moment, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President. My name is Gus. Yes. Okay.
Gus, could we have you take a seat for just a moment? We have some questions on the item potentially, and I want to move to the special since it's now 10:15. Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Campos, can we adjourn the regular meeting and go to the special meeting?
Yes, we can. We will open up the special meeting for quorum purposes. We have Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Cabello, Commissioner James, and Commissioner Davis. President James, you do have a quorum for the special meeting. We do not have any commentary under the Neighborhood Council comments section, but we did receive speaker cards on item number 1 for today's special agenda.
Okay. Let me get to my special agenda just a minute. Agenda item number 1, contract amendment, Recycla program, recommending that the board approve and forward the report with transmittals to the mayor and city council with the request that the Board of Public Works be authorized to execute amendments to personal service contracts for exclusive franchise to provide collection, transfer, processing, and disposal for solid resources to commercial establishments and applicable multifamily establishments, that's what we'll call Recycla, with the following entities: CalMet Services, NASA Services, Ware Disposal, USA Waste of California doing business as Waste Management, Arakelian Enterprises Incorporated doing businesses as Athens Services, Consolidated Disposal Service doing business as Republic Services or Republic, and Universal Waste Systems. And secondly, authorize myself or 2 members of the board to execute the contract amendments upon the mayoral and council approval. Mr. Zaldivar, you are going to provide an introduction before we go to Mr. Myers on this? So I'd like to have the presentation from sanitation before we go to the speaker cards.
Thank you, President James. Good morning, Commissioners, Bureau, Department executives. Yes, I am going to provide a brief introduction.
The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you. I see the timer, Fernando.
No timer for you this morning, Enrique. Maybe on other days, but not today.
Well, very good. In the course of the development of environmental policy, there are sometimes debatable points of view as to what is the best and final policy for the city in this case. Eliminating landfilling of solid resources as an environmental practice is a policy that has a broad consensus from all sectors of society, starting with our city residents, our city businesses, environmental and academic communities, and our political leadership. In pursuit of our goal of zero waste and making our city landfill free, we implemented the Recycla program to provide the necessary service and program infrastructure for the commercial and multifamily sector that will enable the entire city as a whole, with its companion residential program, to reach our zero waste goal by 2025. During the implementation of Recycla, 2 issues of concern arose. Inherent, I believe, to the significance of the change and the magnitude of the program in itself. A lapse in service reliability and the frustration felt by customers by the existence of extra service charges that in effect created an impediment for customers to recycle. And therefore, an unintended detrimental counterforce to achieving the program's zero waste goal. Your board has been at the forefront of finding resolutions to these 2 issues, and we appreciate it very much. Service reliability has been fully restored to the satisfaction of the customers since early 2018. And today, with your approval of the contract amendment, as LA San is recommending, and the subsequent approval by the City Council and the Mayor, we will have resolved the second issue of the barriers to recycling created by the extra service charges on blue container service, thus making blue recycling free to all Recycla customers, and now truly providing customers an incentive to recycle to their full potential. Dan of my staff will go over the salient points of the contract amendment, and we ask for your approval.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Myers, before you start, let me just say, Mr. Zaldivar, thank you to you and your leadership and your team for the hard work that was done over a number of months to get to the point that we're at today for Mr. Myers' presentation. There's a lot of work I know that you put in yourself personally, Enrique, along with many of the people that are here today. including the legal representatives of the service providers, and the people that work with them, as well as the mayor's office and council offices as well. We appreciate the hard work of everyone that's gotten us to the point today. Mr. Myers, you'll summarize what's before us.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dan Myers, LA Sanitation. Feeding off of the fact that we are at a point right now where we are able to look at, and what I believe we have accomplished through a contract amendment, is an enhancement to certain aspects of the issues that remain for our customers. This contract amendment addresses the need to promote recycling by removing the barriers to recycling and help mitigate costs to customers. Through months of negotiations with our recycle service providers, we developed an amendment that I believe benefits the recycle customers. These benefits to the customers will be in the following three key areas. As Enrique already mentioned, the removing barriers to recycling. This is accomplished by eliminating all extra service charges related to access and distance on blue bin services. It will establish an optimization period. In this optimization period, there will be increased education to customers on how to recycle and reduce contamination. We believe that education is crucial during the optimization period. It will include door-to-door outreach to tenants at multifamily complexes, employees at commercial premises, and the property, including property managers and owners. This outreach effort is actually a combined effort. There is contractual requirements for our service providers to provide the outreach that I spoke of to our customers, but we'll also from the city standpoint, we're putting together a detailed outreach and education program to really get customers comfortable with the proper ways to recycle throughout the city. The settlement agreement requires our service providers to do an aggressive outreach and education program. Number three, customers will receive cost mitigation through deferment of rate increases and moratoriums on contamination fees. I'll get into details of each of these three components. Removing barriers to recycling. Recognizing the impacts of extra service fees on customers and the effect it has to incentivize and facilitate recycling, the program will no longer charge customers extra service fees on blue bins, those fees related to access and distance. This will result in reduced cost for those paying for or eligible to pay those fees in the future. This has multiple benefits. Besides reducing their fees on the blue bins, it truly promotes recycling. As customers recycle more, which we need to meet the goals the city has set to reach its zero waste, they will actually be able to begin to downsize their black bins. As they downsize their black bins and increase their recycling, they will see reduction in their fees. Not only that, as they reduce their black bin service, they'll not only receive reductions in their base rates, but there were also associated fees related to access and distance on those bins. Those would be removed. So we believe this removing barriers to recycling program is key to customers, not only to be incentivized to recycle more, but also reduce their overall bills. We also felt it was important as a gesture to really promote recycling. It will include a credit. So not only moving forward will the blue bin extra service charges be removed, customers that have paid extra service charges on blue bins from February 1st, 2018 will receive a credit towards their future bills. For those customers paying the extra service charges on blue bins, this program will result in just the first year alone, a $14 million annual reduction in those customers' bills. This program is jointly funded by the city and the Recicla service providers. We will jointly fund this program. It will be a 50-50 funding. The first full year, including all the credits back to 2018, will return in excess of $18 million in fees because it's more than a year worth when you look at the credits. $18 million in fees through the end of this fiscal year. That will be a contribution of $9 million from the city and $9 million from our Recicla service providers. Next aspect of the program is the application of the extra service charges beyond that of the blue bins. In addition to removing the extra service charges on the blue bins, there were two additional scenarios where extra service charges are no longer applicable. The RSPs, our Recicla service providers, also call them RSPs, will cease charging Recicla customers for accessing locked or secured premises that have been unlocked by the customers so long as the RSP has unimpeded access into the premise. In addition, RSPs will also cease charging Recicla customers for accessing via an intercom or security office that does not require the Recicla service provider to leave the vehicle. Other service charges on the black and green bins will remain in effect. We will establish an optimization period. In this optimization period, we've established it for 2 years, ending in December 2020. There will be an increase outreach and education to customers on how to recycle, how to reduce their contamination in their blue bins if that exists, and truly begin to move from black bins to blue bins. During this optimization period, customers will not receive any contamination fees on their blue bins. This is a very important aspect of the program. We definitely believe that through the outreach and education to our customers, that will be, in this period, the best way to get contamination reduced in the blue bin. That moratorium will last through the end of 2020. In fact, during the negotiation process, the Recicla service providers agreed to also not charge contamination fees. So customers that may have received a contamination fee because of highly contaminated bins have not, because we entered into these negotiations, these discussions with our RSPs to the goal of developing a more intense outreach program. Postponements of additional rate increases. Acknowledging that many customers experienced a rise in cost with the transition into the new program, additional rate adjustments will be delayed and phased in as customers get acclimated to the new system and take advantage of the increased recycling. The existing Recicla contracts limit the annual rate adjustments that can be applied to customers. These adjustments are limited to an indexed annual CPI rate increase that's capped out at 5% a year, as well as other planned or triggered rate adjustments over CPI. These additional adjustments include 2 annual adjustments related to the development of an organics program, a rate adjustment that will be triggered if there's a downturn in the recycling market, as well as a single rate adjustment to account for the RSP's overall cost of providing service to our customers. These first additional rate increases over CPI were scheduled to begin to take effect in January of 2019. Those additional rate increases have been put on hold, have been deferred for 1 year. So the 2 rate increases scheduled to take effect in January 2019 and January 2020 have been postponed to January 2020 and January 2021. Those rate increases would have been 3% in addition to CPI. With the move, those have been moved to 3.5% over CPI. In addition, the contract contemplated if there was a downturn in the market, recycling market, there was the opportunity for rate adjustments to account for that. And that event happened. With the ban that China has placed on the import of recyclable materials, it had an extreme impact on the local recycling market. As a result of that, there would have been an additional rate increase effective in 2019 also. Through the settlement agreement, though, that has also been deferred. And this year, the only rate increase the customers will have seen through this amendment is CPI. CPI is currently 3.57% per year. For this year. There were other contract adjustments. These included a clarification on liquidated damages associated with repeated miscollections, as well as modifications to recycling provided liquidated damage. The requirement for the RSPs to divert over 1 million tons of waste to this program to get the city to its zero waste goals remains in effect. There were modifications to the timing of the measurement targets. There are 2 interim measuring targets to see as a check-in to see where the RSPs are in meeting those diversion goals. The timing of those measurements have been adjusted. The benefits of this program is not only will customers that are receiving the credits and reductions in their blue bins benefit, but I believe all customers through this amendment will benefit. Benefit through outreach and education, benefit through reductions in their near-term bills, allow them to participate further with the program. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have on the program.
Before I start with my colleagues on their questions, let me just say, Dan, thank you for the summary. And I know it's a summary, but just from the summary, you can tell how much work has gone into this and how complicated it's been. And Adina Hoppenstand, your work in the city attorney's office on kind of steering this ship along with sanitation, we really appreciate your good work on this. We'll start with Commissioner Davis.
Yeah, I really appreciate this report and very pleased with what I'm hearing. But I just had a point of clarification. In terms of our goal towards zero waste, if I'm not mistaken, I think last year we were somewhere around 79%. Could you tell me where we are as a city today on zero waste towards that end?
You know, I apologize. I don't have that number.
Alex does.
Okay. Oh, Alex does. Okay. Thank you, Alex.
Good morning. As a city, the last major study we done was in 2013 with the help of UCLA. We did also an update. Right now, we're standing about 76.4% diversion. Okay. Our goal, as Enrique mentioned, is 90% by 2025. So the 1 million ton that Recycla brings into this equation will help us reach the zero waste by 90% by 2025, and then we have 95% by 2035.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. So Before I go to my questions, I've got just a few speaker cards that we would like to go through, and I think we've got enough time. We'll just set the normal time on this, Dr. Campos. Jose Ramirez? Good morning, sir.
Morning. Thank you for the time. Jose Ramirez, Executive Director with the St. Francis Center. We're a homeless services nonprofit here in LA. Been a staple for over 45 years. I'm here to speak positively and in favor of the partnerships that have been created thanks to Recicla, the private, public, and nonprofit partnerships that have created a model for waste diversion, addressing food insecurity, and helping to support our homeless community as well. We've been partnering with 4 of the city's 7 waste haulers. We've been able to make tremendous impacts in food rescue just in the last year and a half. Since Recicla began, we've actually rescued an additional 1.1 million pounds of food, in addition to the partners that we had existing at the time, which have allowed us to provide over 100,000 homeless meals, over 22,000 grocery visits last year. We've been recently able to expand to service our student population. Last year, we opened up a food pantry at LA Trade Tech. We're at an adult literacy pre-K school in South LA. And we also, in the fall, opened up a food pantry on campus at USC. Yes, believe it or not, there are students at USC that are food insecure. So this tremendous partnership and impact has allowed us to expand our services to those in need beyond our center. Not only is it allowing for positive environmental impacts, but also really positive social impacts to address food insecurity in our community. I continue to advocate for the program, and it's been a pleasure to work with all our partners and continue the advocacy that's necessary to address food waste as well as food insecurity in our communities. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rosana Franco?
Good morning. My name is Rosanna Franco, and I'm a policy associate at the LA Food Policy Council. Food waste prevention and rescue is one of our key priority areas as an organization. And today, similar to Jose, I really want to uplift how the Recicla program has really forged partnerships to ensure that edible food is not sent to landfills. Thanks to Recicla, 376 tons of food have been diverted from landfills thus far, meaning that Angelino families in need received approximately 1.5 million meals last year. Getting food out of landfills is really important to the LA Food Policy Council. It's important for us that we work toward greenhouse gas reductions and fighting climate change. Whether food is recovered and donated or composted, we hope that the city will prioritize organic waste services and moves forward on building necessary infrastructure to divert food waste. We are pleased that that you all have made a decision on rates today, or at least are providing a recommendation. And we hope that Recicla's success continues to be integral to the health of our city. We encourage you to vote on the agreement before you today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Grisha Reyes? Gracia Reyes? Okay. Angelica Gonzalez?
Commissioners. My name is Angelica Gonzalez. I am the Conservation Program Manager for the Angeles chapter of the Sierra Club. As a member of the largest environmental organizations in the country, I applaud the city for making a forefront on zero waste and environmental sustainability. This is why we're a proud member of the coalition of Don't Waste LA, and we're here to support the passage of Recicla franchise system, which is making Los Angeles a national leader when it comes to high environmental standards. We're already seeing the benefits. Recicla has added 318,000 cubic yards of recyclable blue bin material that would otherwise have gone to the landfill. And Recicla has already resulted in greenhouse reductions by replacing dirty diesel burning vehicles into 456 near zero emission vehicles. This program is working as Angelinos now have access to on-site recycling for first time in the history, which makes us very proud. And I want to thank you for your leadership and support our work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Rob Nara? Okay. Thank you. That clears the speaker cards then on special one. Mr. Myers? So, Dan, I don't have much to ask. First of all, whoever drafted the board report, I don't know if it was you or your team or somebody else.
It's always a team effort.
Always a team effort. I think it's very helpful. It was well done, and it did a good job of kind of summarizing everything that's related to the contract amendment. I also think that and I'm kind of talking myself out of my question here, but we'll see if I still have one left. This also demonstrates, even down to the 50% share of the costs of this, as to what level of a compromise it has been. And to that aspect, I also wanted to thank our partners at the RSPs, and I know that many of the principals of the RSPs themselves were involved in these negotiations as well. So just really and I guess my question, Dan, even to the extent you may have covered it in your overall presentation, the aspect of, we talked about what's beneficial to the customer, and both sides, meaning the city and the RSPs, are both contributing to that benefit that's being passed on to the customer. And we understand what the benefits have come out of this. Were there incentives to the customer? Were there incentives to the RSPs, or is there an incentive that could be described as an incentive for the RSPs to have entered into this compromise? And the sense for the question is this, and I'm going to give credit to my colleague, Vice President Cabello, because her light's not on. So I'm going to mention it. But in discussions that I've been in with Commissioner Cabello on this, really simplifying the point that as we provide incentives and benefits for recycling, the cost to the customer from black bin service is reduced. And that is a significant benefit not only to the goals of the program, but to the customers itself. Along those same lines, though, what are the benefits, even just kind of a brief statement of the benefits to the RSPs to enter in, or the incentives to the RSPs to enter into the compromise?
So, one of the things I really like about the amendment in front of you is we're able to provide the customers a benefit, the RSPs a benefit, and the city a benefit. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The RSPs have a contractual goal of diverting 1 million tons of waste from landfills. They cannot get there, okay, without truly establishing a partnership with their customers. The customers are the ones that ultimately are going to place material in the blue bins, accept additional blue bins. What this program does is allow for that partnership, allow for that additional education, allow for the removal of those barriers. The RSPs will benefit from that in that it truly removes some of their internal barriers to reach their program goals. The city, a beneficiary of that. We have our goals, and Enrique can speak for hours on the city's reliance on landfills and how they will not be here, and what we need to do to reach our goals. So truly, I believe there are 3 beneficiaries of the settlement agreement.
Great, thank you. I don't have any further questions. I'll make a motion that we adopt Special 1, seconded by Commissioner Cabello and Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt Special 1. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send Special 1 forthwith. Again, thank you, everyone that have really been partners through this entire process.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Of course. So, Dr. Campos, we can adjourn Special 1?
We will. We will
Okay,
open up
and
the regular special meeting for purposes of quorum. We have Commissioner Garcia, Cabello, James, and Davis. You do have a quorum for back to the regular agenda.
Okay, we were on Descanso Drive a moment ago. And Gus, come on back up. Sorry about that. But I just was concerned that we might have some questions, and I wanted to be able to start our special on time for when it was posted. Okay. So let me recall agenda item number 2, a lease authorization, 3100 West Sunset Boulevard parking lot. Council District 13, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to acquire and negotiate for the lease of parking on the real property at 3100 West Sunset Boulevard, also known as the assessor parcel, and I'm just going to read it in the record once, 5426-016-008, as required for the completion of the Descanso Drive at West Sunset Boulevard Street Reconstruction Project. Secondly, authorize the Director of the Office of Accounting at the Board of Public Works to draw a demand in the amount of $90,000 payable to 3100 West Sunset Boulevard LLC to cover the acquisition of a 4-month lease of parking needed for the project. And third, authorize $50,000 in additional contingency and approve a revised construction budget of $3,343,773. Lots of threes in that one for the project. Mr. Presero, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. President, commissioners, we interface with the city attorney office in drafting this document to lease for a period of 4 months the amount of $90,000 so that these residents that are impacted by the reconstruction project along Descanso Drive will have alternative parking. So the real estate division of BOE received a request from the project design group, and we'll look around, and the only most viable close to Descanso Drive is the 3100 Sunset Boulevard. So we negotiated with the property owner, and we started with we were surprised by the amount that they gave us. The owner told us, we are renting this out for $22,000 per week. And normally, the renters are movie studios. And there are also other interested parties. But the real estate group made market survey and market study. And we have offers and counter offers starting from the property owner's $22,000 per week until we arrive at the final number of $90,000 for 4 months. And we interface with the city attorney office in drafting this parking agreement.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Cabello.
Thank you, President James. I know this project really well because I live in CD 13. I've been on Descanso several times, and it's in desperate need, so fully support helping our residents out there. How many residents total will be impacted by this project? And will be needing to park over here in this lot?
The project design group told us there will be around 18 to 20 residents because of the reconstruction project.
So are any of those residents in need of ADA access to their homes? That's something that would seem like a big issue if they had to walk from Sunset, because Descanso does go up on an incline.
Yes, as you see, the walking distance is closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know, but are there any ADA issues with any of the residents? Do we know?
I don't know about the project design group, but so far there were no complaints about those residents impacted by the project.
Okay, and no comments either way from CD 13?
So far there is none.
Well, although, just I want that to be clear, I worked with CD13 in getting this agendized today. They're very interested in getting this on our agenda today.
Yeah, I was more concerned about if there was any feedback they received about residents with ADA issues, just having to access their homes from a street-level parking lot as opposed to going up the incline. I just want to be sure that we're being conscious of those needs.
And for the information of the body, excuse me.
Actually, the residents are very happy.
Can you speak in the microphone, sir?
Actually, the residents are very happy that we got parking spaces for them.
Okay. Yeah, parking is very difficult around there, so thank you for your efforts.
And again, Mr. President, for your information, these parking spaces has been used by the residents since November of last year. Yeah, and
Great.
so far we don't receive any complaint.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you, President. I just want to applaud the group that made the decision to actually find some space for our residents that will be impacted with this project. I feel that that's in a common sense approach. We normally don't do that, but I think this is fantastic that we did. Since we are going to be working there, we should be able to accommodate. So I applaud you, the team, and everybody else that had anything to do with the negotiations and making the impact less impactful for our community. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I also do support this very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2, seconded by Commissioners Garcia, Davis, and Cabello. That'll be the order on number 2. Thank you all. Any issue sending number 2 forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Agenda item number 1. Council Districts 4 and 13, revised task order solicitation number 4 to SOMAS, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to issue a revision of the task for solicitation number 4 to SOMAS, increasing the budget authority by $1,250,000. So it's going to go from $4,250,000 to $5.5 million. The contingency is $249,045. And the purpose is to provide the final design documents, including the seismic retrofit for the arch spans, additional permitting requirements, and related additional services for the Glendale Boulevard, Hyperion Avenue Complex of Bridges Improvement Project. Mr. Chen, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Wen Qing with the Bureau of Engineering Bridge Improvement Division. I'm distributing a map. Hopefully this map will help me with the presentation this morning. This map shows the entire area of the Glendale Hyperion Complex of Bridges project entailed. Yes. So everyone get the map?
Yes. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Chen. We're good.
To expedite the overall delivery of the entire bridge project, we have split the construction into 2 phases. Toward the right side of this map, you will see an arrow pointing at phase 1. That is a pedestrian bridge that we will build first as a separate contract. And there is another item on today's agenda that we would recommend your board to award that contract so that pedestrian bridge is ready for construction. And the report before you is for phase 2. And on the map, other than that pedestrian bridge, the rest of that map is the scope of phase 2, which cover the entire Hyperion and the Glendale corridors. This report before you for your consideration is to request your approval to increase the task order budget by $1.25 million for the consultant to complete the final design and the support services of phase 2. In May 2016, your board authorized a task order of $4.25 million for the final design and the right-of-way services. The Glendale Hyperion project has a mandatory seismic retrofit component. Based on our assessment of the structures, we discovered potential seismic vulnerabilities that would be inherent in the arch members. If you turn to the map again, the circle in the center refer to the location of those 5 arch spans. And one of the 5 spans crosses over Golden State Freeway. The bridges were designated by City Council as a city's monument because of these beautiful arches. But it is also a unique challenge to retrofit them. After much work, our project team presented a proposed strategy to Caltrans, and it was concurred by their earthquake engineering experts. Also, Caltrans approved 1.3 million additional federal grant for city to complete the final design. So the majority of this budget increase is to cover the additional retrofit design effort. It is our recommendation that your board approve this report. This concludes my oral. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chen. Thanks for the briefing. Any questions at all? I don't have any questions. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1, seconded by Commissioner Cabello. Thank you for the explanation. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issue sending 1 forthwith? We'll send number 1 forthwith. Mr. Chen, I see you're here on number 3 as well. Also, Council Districts 4 and 13, task order, a task for solicitation for E as an egg for SOMAS, recommending that the board authorize the city engineer to issue the task to SOMAS from the pre-qualified on-call bridge, civil engineering, and other design and support services consultants list to provide environmental approval, final plan, specifications, and estimate documents, and right-of-way services for the intersection improvements on Hyperion Avenue and Glendale Boulevard project, as stated in task for solicitation number 4E, with a budget authority of $1,071,958, which includes contingency. So go ahead, sir.
I've prepared another map for this report. This report is to request your authorization to issue a new task order for environmental documentation, design, and right-of-way services for the intersection improvement on Hyperion Avenue and Glendale Boulevard. Because this is the first time we report to your board relative to this new project, I would like to share with you a brief background. This project is an augmentation to the bridge project I just reported on to you. Please refer to the project site map. In the center of this map is an area encircled by the red dashed line. I hope everybody see it. There's the area encircled by the red lines. And this is the entire area that is covered by the first map, the map I distributed earlier. In other words, we have shrunk the first map into the smaller area, into the small area within the red line on the second map. The areas between the red line and the outside yellow dashed lines are where this new project will focus on. This project would continue the bike lanes and upgrade the sidewalks from the bridges to the next intersections and connect them to the rest of the network in the city. It will also modify the signals and restripe the travel lanes to improve the traffic operation. BOE invited all 10 firms on the pre-qualified on-call list to submit a proposal, but only one firm responded. We reviewed this firm's proposal, confirmed their qualifications and experiences, and negotiated the cost. I'd just like to bring to your attention that, as stated in our written report, the selected firm does not have any DBE participation in their proposal on this intersection project. However, the accumulative DBE participation level of this firm under the current on-call contract is at 29% as of January 2019, exceeding the 6% as required by our contract. I do apologize for a typo in our written report. On page 4, at the top, the first paragraph, the last sentence, it should have read as of January 4, 2019, not 2018. So this the cumulative DBE participation, 29%, is the data we have about a month ago. To conclude my report, it is our recommendation that your board approve this task order with a budget authority not to exceed $1,071,958. And I would be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chen. We'll start with Commissioner Cabello.
Just a quick question. Thank you, President James. I'm very, very familiar with the Glendale-Hyperion complex of bridges and worked on parts of this as a legislative deputy in CD13. When do you anticipate completion date? Because I know this is a huge project. It's been going on for years and will go in different phases. Just curious as to the completion date.
Yes. As I said, today we will recommend the award of the construction of the phase 1 of the bridge project.
Understood.
That part will take about 1 year to complete. And right now we schedule the phase 2 bridge construction to start in the summer or in the fall of 2020. And that will take about 3 to 3.5 years to complete. And today, if this is approved by the board, we will start the design. We are scheduled to complete intersection improvements. We plan to spend 2 years to complete the design, environmental, and another about 1.5 years to complete the construction. So probably we look forward at like a 2024.
And that includes the pedestrian bridge that will be built above the red car.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Cabello. Just a couple of things to add. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, President. It's just more of a comment and a clarification. The pedestrian bridge initially was going to be temporary, but now we have decided that's going to be a permanent bridge, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just make some annotations to that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Just a couple of points I'll add from the oral report. I'm sorry, from the board report. There's a reference that, as you addressed, Mr. Chen, a moment ago, only one entity responded to our solicitation, but that's the entity that's been doing the work there. So it makes sense that they would be the one that responded. When you inquired, as I understand from the briefing, that engineering inquired with other folks on the list, and some of the response was, look, there's continuity existing with SOMA, so it didn't make much sense for them to apply. So I just wanted the oral record to reflect that, which is understandable, but that leads to my question. When you only have one entity that responded to the solicitation, is the Bureau satisfied with the negotiation that resulted in the cost of the project?
Yeah, on one hand, we regret we only received one response. We wish we could see different ideas from different companies. However, in this case, we only received one. James, you are right, because this firm has been working on the Glendale-Hyperion Bridge project since 2014. So they have gained an intimate knowledge to that area, and they know what the community needs. So when we review the qualification for the intersection project, the qualification of the consultant for the second project, we very much emphasize their knowledge and their understanding of the community needs. We have a lot of outreach with the Edgewater Village and with the Silver Lake communities. So they all want to have a well-coordinated, seamless connection between the bridge project and the future projects. When we review this firm's, the Seoul firm proposal, we were very much impressed that they have had a lot of very good ideas how to implement the next project. So from their proposal, we are sure that they are ready to begin to jumpstart this project, and they will help us achieve what the community would expect. So that's the main basis that we are confident with this firm, and we select them.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3, seconded by Commissioner Cabello. I'm sorry, did I do something wrong?
Can I ask for an amendment for item number 3 to reflect the date on page 4 as January 4th, 2019?
Oh, you mentioned that, yeah. So that would be, my motion would be as amended accordingly. Seconded by Commissioner Cabello. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt number 3 as amended. Thank you, sir. Any issue sending it forthwith?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We'll send it forthwith. Have a nice weekend, Mr. Chin. Agenda item number 4, Council Districts 4 and 13, they're getting a lot of activity today. Engineering and Contract Administration, Contract Award Glendale Hyperion Complex of Bridges, Phase 1. Recommending that the board first declare the first low bidder, Bosco Constructors Incorporated, to be non-responsive as discussed in the report. Secondly, receive, file, and find to be unmerited those portions of transmittal number 1 relating to Reyes as discussed in the report. Third, declare Reyes Construction the second low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder, and award Reyes a contract for the project for $3,756,424. And finally, authorize myself or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract after approval as to form has been obtained from the city attorney. Mr. Asfor, you are here, and I see you have backup from Contract Administration. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, President James. My name is Andrew Asfor with the Bureau of Engineering, Bridge Improvement Division. Before I begin my presentation, I want to make a note of one correction on the board report. On page 6, section under staff response section, paragraph 3, line 2, we just want to omit the sentence that says, Reyes remains the lowest responsible bidder. It's kind of redundant, so we just want to omit that sentence. Okay, so I'm here to present the board report for the award of the construction contract for the Glendale Hyperion Complex of Bridges Phase 1 Red Car Pedestrian Bridge Project. After a thorough review and analysis of the bids received, we determined that Reyes Construction Incorporated is the lowest responsible bidder for the amount of $3,756,424. There is adequate funding for the project in the Measure R and Bridge Improvement Program funding sources. The scope of the project will consist of the construction of a 430-foot span prefabricated steel truss pedestrian bridge over the Los Angeles River downstream of the existing complex of bridges at Glendale Boulevard and Hyperion Avenue, which connect the Silver Lake and the Los Feliz communities to the Atwater Village. The steel truss bridge will utilize 2 reconstructed LA County Flood Control District piers as vertical supports. In addition to the construction of the bridge, an asphalt path will be constructed at the north end of the bridge to connect to the sidewalk on northbound Glendale Boulevard. On the south side of the bridge, a transition will be provided to the existing Los Angeles River bikeway. The anticipated duration of the project will be 1 calendar year. The red car bridge will serve as a permanent pedestrian circulation mitigation during the widening and retrofit of the Glendale Hyperion bridges during Phase 2, which Wen mentioned earlier, and will be executed under a separate contract. And now I'll hand it off to John Pattison from the Bureau of Contract Administration to discuss the Business Inclusion Program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, John Pattison with the Bureau of Contract Administration. This project is subject to the requirements of the Local Business Preference Program. This program is designed to increase local employment and expenditure in the local private sector. For this project, the Bureau of Contract Administration has verified that the first low bidder, Bosco, is not a certified local business enterprise, and that the second low bidder, Reyes, is a certified local business enterprise. However, the application of the Local Business Preference Program did not change the order of bids. This project is also subject to the requirements of the Business Inclusion Program, which requires bidders to perform and document a BIP outreach via the internet and the City of Los Angeles Business Assistance Virtual Network Service. This project was also advertised with the board's mandatory subcontracting minimum, or MSM, requirement of 25%. The MSM percentages were calculated after subcontracting the fixed, after subcontracting. I believe that should potentially be a correction as well. The bidder's MSM percentages were calculated after that still doesn't seem right. What am I missing? Dr. Campos? After subtracting, thank you. After subtracting the fixed cost items of $15,000 from their total bid amounts. If we could have that as a correction too, please. The final sentence in paragraph 4, page 4, the bidder's MSM percentages were calculated after subtracting the fixed cost items of $15,000 from their total bid amounts. During the BIP evaluation for Bosco, the first low bidder, the Office of Contract Compliance staff determined that Bosco failed to meet the MSM requirement of 25% for this project. They pledged an MSM of 7.73%. That does not meet the requirement, therefore their bid may be deemed non-responsive. On November 20th, 2018, being transmittal number 3, the Office of Contract Compliance notified Bosco that we would be recommending their bid be deemed non-responsive for failure to meet the MSM requirements set for this project. We received a series of email correspondences from Bosco protesting our determination, and following is a summary of that correspondence. In emails dated November 20, 2018 and January 7, 2019, transmittal numbers 4 and 5 respectively, Mr. Steve Robinson with Bosco protested the OCC's recommendation of non-responsiveness, stated why they believe that Bosco Constructors is the lowest responsive bidder for this project. As supporting documentation, Mr. Robinson submitted a copy of an earlier email sent to the Office of Contract Compliance at 1:53 p.m. on November 14, 2018, approximately 4 hours after bid opening, in which Bosco identified in which they had requested and received information regarding the supporting documents part of the online submission as it pertains to the Business Inclusion Program. Mr. Robinson also attached a worksheet which identified 7 subcontractors and their subcontracting amounts that did total over 25% requirement. He provided a copy of their online BIP summary sheet, additionally referenced pages 21 and 22 of the general conditions, which states that listed vendors and or suppliers will be limited to 60% of their listed dollar value toward achieving both the MSM and the anticipated MBE/WBE levels of participation for this project. In the November 14th email attached to transmittal number 3, the Office of Contract Compliance response was specific to the Business Inclusion Program online submission requirement. It was provided after the proposal submission deadline. And while Bosco did provide a worksheet with amounts that would have exceeded the MSM percentage and provided their online BIP summary sheet, which did include the 7 listed subcontractors on their worksheet, these selections were also submitted after the bid proposal deadline. The list of subcontractors pages 1-6 through 1-8 in Bosco's proposal shows that they failed to include 5 of the 7 subcontractors listed on their worksheet. The bid specifications clearly state that the bidder must list any additional subcontractor and dollar value to the subcontractor regardless of amount if they wish to have the subcontract amount credited towards meeting the MSM participation for the project. That failure to list the subcontractors and subcontracting amounts with the bids on the forms provided in the proposal sufficient to meet or exceed the required MSM may cause their bid to be rejected by the Board of Public Works as non-responsive. Staff cannot consider either the worksheet or the BIP summary sheet when calculating the pledged MSM participation. Lastly, the general conditions pages which referenced by Bosco clearly state that listed vendors and or suppliers will be limited to 60% of their listed dollar value towards achieving the MSM participation for this project. Bosco listed only 2 companies on its list of subcontractors pages in their bid proposal, resulting in a pledged MSM percentage of 7.73%, less than the required 25% set for this project. The Office of Contract Compliance concluded that Bosco had failed to acknowledge the MSM requirements stated throughout the bid specifications, failed to list the subcontractors with subcontracting amounts on pages 1.6 through 1.8 of the bid sufficient to meet the MSM requirement, and therefore a recommendation is that they be non-responsive for failure to meet the MSM requirement for this project. Reyes, the second low bidder on this project, complied with the Business Inclusion Program outreach requirements of the bid. They pledged subcontractor participation levels of 3.3% minority-owned business enterprise, 3.29% women-owned business enterprise, 5.06% small business enterprise, 2.31% emerging business enterprise. They did not pledge anything towards our disabled veteran business enterprise. They did pledge 32.13% other business enterprise, and they complied with the MSM requirement for this project by pledging a subcontractor participation level of 38.91%. In a letter received by the board on November 29, 2018, being transmittal number 1, GB Cook, the apparent third low bidder, protested Bosco's bid for this project with respect primarily to the MSM. GB Cook also protested Reyes' bid because Reyes had listed 2 different electrical subcontractors, specifically Los Angeles Signal Construction and Faith Electric, for the same scope of work. As the Office of Contract Compliance has already found Bosco previously to have only pledged 7.73% of the total bid amount towards the MSM, they did not meet the MSM requirement. Hence, it is being recommended that Bosco be deemed non-responsive as alleged in GB Cook's protest. Moreover, since Bosco is not being considered for award of this project, staff's recommendation is that the board receive and file these portions of Transmittal 1 as they relate to Bosco. With regards to portions of Transmittal 1 as they relate to Reyes, as per the Public Contract Code, Chapter 4, Section 4106, if a prime contractor specifies more than 1 subcontractor for the same portion of work to be performed under the contract in excess of 0.5% of the prime contractor's total bid, the prime contractor agrees that he or she is fully qualified to perform that portion himself or herself, and that the prime contractor shall perform that portion himself or herself. The Office of Contract Compliance did not include LA Signal and Faith Electric's bids in our calculation of Reyes' pledged MSM. The MSM percentage for Reyes is 38.91%, which meets the required minimum subcontractor percentage of 25% for this bid. Just need to make sure that's correct, yes. In view of these findings, staff's recommendation is that the board finds Bosco, the first low bidder, to be non-responsive, to receive and file and find to be unmerited those portions of Transmittal number 1 as they relate to Reyes, to declare Reyes the second low bidder to be the lowest responsible bidder, and award Reyes the contract for this project.
Thank you, sir. Any questions at all? The protesters were aware of the hearing this morning, correct?
That is correct. They were notified of the hearing.
Great. All right. I don't have any questions. Commissioner Garcia has made a motion that we adopt agenda item number 4, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we will adopt agenda item number 4. Thank you both. Mr. S4, that was your first time? Well, there you go. Next time we'll ask you a question. All right. Good. Yeah, they're good. Good job.
Mr. President, on item number 4, can I request that the board consider this to be adopted as amended as well?
As they described?
Just to make the correction.
Yeah.
The motion
Yes.
will be as amended from Commissioner Garcia, seconded by Commissioner Davis.
Sure.
Thank you.
That'll be the order. Thank you. We'll send it forthwith. That takes us to, we've cleared the voting items, correct, Dr. Campos?
Yes, you have.
So we have an oral report this morning from our Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety Office. Mr. Entuck. Dr. Williams, do you want to go before or after? After. Go ahead, Mr. Entuck.
Good morning, President James, Board of Public Works staff, Uduwacho Entuck, Petroleum Administrator, for quarterly report. Happy Friday. This is follow-up from my last presentation in November of the third quarter. quarterly report. You should have a handout to try to make things a little simpler and data sharing. So this report covers the last 3 months of 2018. We've had a number of activities happening in the buckets of petroleum administration, pipeline franchises, policy, department requests, community engagement, and administrative items. First, we'll start off with petroleum administration items. So we did conclude the Jefferson drill site public hearing in November. That was a follow-up post-litigation on a drill site just outside or near USC that the operator is proposing to abandon the facility, and working with the planning department on what processes should happen as a site's abandoned. I did already submit to the planning department a copy of my report and recommendations as part of that public hearing process, and there should be, actually today, the determination letters going out to conclude, no, I'm sorry, not on Jefferson, but that's still in process. But there's a second zoning hearing on Rancho Park, which the letter is going out today, which I also sent a report on, that will conclude a public hearing that started last year, and the zoning administrator had an extended comment period for residents to participate in some negotiations that happened between the operator and the planning department. We have been continuing with our ongoing bi-monthly meetings on Allenco with our interagency partners. So this is the EPA, Cal EPA, Dogger, County Public Health Department, LAUSD, on evaluating, as Allenco has indicated, that they are attempting to restart operations at the facility that's also near USC off of Figueroa and Adams. We also are part of the Baldwin Hills Community Standards District. There's monthly meetings. The most notable item on that is part of the requirements is updating the community health plan every 5 to 7 years, and so our staff member, our policy and community engagement officer, environmental affairs officer, Erica Blyther, has been involved as we're going through and looking at the criteria for the next health assessment that's going to be happening throughout this year and next year. One of our directives from last time we went to City Council was to rate and prioritize all the drill sites by Cal Enviro scoring, which is basically environmental justice scoring of ranking as we're going through and doing assessments of going to the ones that have the highest percent of health burden on the community. So we've completed that assessment. We did have 2 incidents that occurred. One was in sanitation, had cut off the top of a wellhead to lower it to make room for a sewer pipe that was unpermitted by Dogger and triggers state law that we have to re-abandon the well. And so that was one incident that happened the last 3 months. Also, there was a report of oil seeping on a construction site off of Beaudry Street that we did a joint inspection with the state Dogger agency. On pipeline franchise agreements, we issued our first wave of 2019 billing. We have 8 of our franchisees who have due dates in January that we sent out in December. So we collected about $450,000 of our initial. Our total billing is going to be around or approximately $5 million that is happening, and we did this month, but those monies will come in the next few months, and I'll have that report at our next meeting. You do have an upcoming February 25th hearing on risk management that will come back to you. This was last October. The folks who didn't have the correct bond and insurance levels and asked for a continuance. Some people have complied, some people have not. So the question will come back before you later this month of what to do with the non-compliant operators who are not meeting their risk management responsibilities. We're working with the CEO Risk Management Office on a study to reevaluate for the long-term franchises what should be the appropriate risk management levels for workers' comp and pollution prevention for the different types of commodity, because potable water is not the same as crude oil, and jet fuel is different than brine water. And so we're going through that assessment with the CAO's office right now. We've had a number of franchisee meetings on various topics. You will be having a number of board reports coming before you asking to reallocate assets from one franchise to another. It was either transferred, purchased, or repaired in the last year or two. So this is part of the cleaning up of the transfer from the Department of Transportation to Public Works that happened last year. Policy-wise, we've continued to be engaged in the hydrofluoric acid rulemaking with the South Coast Air Quality Management District. The direction from the governing board was an additional 90-day extension. That happened this month. We did have working group meetings and a meeting last fall, and it continues to get to a decision point of either a memorandum of understanding or creating a new rule and starting the EIR process. And so I'm the city's representative on the working group and continue to be involved there. We did also kick off AB 617, which is community air monitoring notification. This is really a pioneering, first in the state and first in the nation, opportunity to look at the worst air quality in the state and bringing the community involved in the process and coming up with air emission reduction plans. So, Los Angeles has the worst air quality in America. The worst air quality in the region is in Wilmington, West Long Beach, Carson area. That was selected as a Tier 1 site. We advocated for that with the California Air Resource Board and AQMD, and we were granted that last year. And so now we are in the process of monthly meetings to review should sensors, putting sensors on freeways, there's fence line air monitoring happening at the refineries, wearable sensors for residents, and collecting this data over the next year. So that kicked off in December. We just had our third meeting earlier this week, but that process we're engaged in. I'm on the Wilmington Steering Committee. There's a Boyle Heights, East LA one that the Mayor's Office of Sustainability is on the steering committee. So mine's more petroleum. There's more diesel, exide battery plant type emissions. So those two things are happening in parallel under the State Bill 617 that was from Christina Garcia 2 years ago. We also completed working with a joint fire departments who have responsibility over refineries in the Coupa. So there was a bill, AB 1646, that required an emergency notification implementation plan, which we completed and submitted in December. And that's looking at a 2.5-year process of updating our community notification using new technology and how we message residents if there's an emergency. Number of department requests are listed there. Community engagement. Tesoro changed their name to Endeavor last year, and then they had a merger with Marathon. So Tesoro no longer exists, but the refinery is the same refinery and it's the same people, and they have a new logo and name, so now they're Marathon. So there's a Marathon community advisory meetings they have in Wilmington. We participated in. Also, Phillips 66 has a community advisory meetings, which we participated on. We did a legal briefing with Stand LA, one of the community groups. We met with the city of Culver City to go over oil data and answer some of their questions of how do we do things in LA versus how they do things in Culver City. And then there was a California refinery interagency task force meeting that was held in Wilmington that I participated in and gave an update. It was in November before our final plan on AB 1646. Some administrative updates. We were hiring. We've done about 8 rounds of interviews. So we've hired a senior management analyst, Tamara Martin, and we'll start next Tuesday in our petroleum franchise section. We did hire a student professional worker, Sarah Frank, is now in our office as of January, but we did interviews last fall. We did a tour of the InWave Energy District in downtown to see how they do hot water, cold water, thermodynamics energy transfer through some of the buildings in downtown LA. Took the whole team out to see what those pumps and chillers and coolers look like. And then we had staff members who attended the Office of State Fire Marshal, had a pipeline safety training all day, or half-day training, and then we had staff members go to the California Environmental and Land Recycling Conference about environmental remediation that was last October. Highlight there on the second page of the aerial map, the 4th Avenue site, also referred to as the Good Shepherd lease. We had a hearing on it, a report last year. The site has now been cleaned up and remediated. There was a transaction. It was sold from Sentinel Peak Resources to Thomas Safran and Associates, an affordable housing developer. This is in CD10. And so there's going to be a mixed-use project. It's going to have ground-level commercial and retail, and then housing up above. And so that's going to take it took 18 months to get through the demolition, remediation, and cleanup process. And so it closed in December 2018, that transaction. But this was really a joint effort that started with community members complaining about long-term idle wells, the fire department issuing violations, having planning department hearings, inspections. And so this is really a culmination of a couple of years worth of work to get to the point of converting a former drill site into an affordable housing development.
Well, can I ask you, this is, I realize, kind of a question maybe from left field, but what percentage of your time is spent on, and I'm reminded of this because of the Century City issue that we had with that building that's going in there at the corner of Constellation and Avenue of the Stars. Would you estimate the percentage of your time that you spend on some of these old well abatement issues as it relates to property development and the entitlement process?
Yeah, I would say probably about 20 to 30% of my time is in answering questions for the fire department, coordinating with Dogger, reviewing development plans, advising, meeting with lawyers, meeting with developers, evaluating, because the intention of the regulatory regime is as you do development, you clean up these former unremediated wells. I mean, we have approximately 4,100 abandoned wells across Los Angeles, with probably about
Every time I hear the number grows.
Yeah, well, probably
like
about
they're multiplying out there.
two-thirds or three-fourths are improperly abandoned.
Yeah.
And so it's against state law to build on top of an abandoned oil well, even if you properly abandon it. There are certain mitigations and testing requirements that need to be done. You need to maintain rig access. You need to make sure you have a cap on the top of the well. Some of these wells do not even have a surface plug or cap. And so the rules didn't exist when the wells were drilled and the structures were built 50 years ago. It was until the last 30 years that we have statewide plug and abandonment rules that are in the modern sense of how we know them. So,
Okay.
But it's a whole different section that's not in the code necessarily what petroleum administrator is supposed to do, but it's at the request of the department. So I have multiple department requests that come in.
Sorry I opened the questions there, but Commissioner Cabello?
Thank you, President James. Just a quick question. You referenced air quality monitoring and sensors at Folksware, especially in the Wilmington area, which I know is desperately needed. I know that the Bureau of Street Lighting partners with AQMD to put monitors above street lights. Do you coordinate with them and finding those locations, or is there any coordination between street lighting and your office?
I'm aware of that project. That went through the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. It's 10 sensors that were funded by AQMD and put on various smart light posts throughout the city. They're very limited on what they measure, but that's happening. What's happening right now on the macro level is called MATES, the Multiple Air Toxin Exposure Study. It happens every 4 to 5 years. This is the 5th iteration of it. I'm on the technical advisory committee for that. We kicked it off in 2017, and it'll conclude in 2021. And they're doing a basin-wide assessment. So all these studies that are happening, the data is feeding into a larger, more precise. I mean, something to think about like video games. When you played like Mario Brothers, and it was a jumping box, you kind of knew what it was, but you didn't, it wasn't that sophisticated. Now you've got these first-person shooter games that you can see and move. So we're going from, in the 1980s, the first MATE study, that was Super Mario Brothers, to now the higher resolution, more specific, new technology that you're able to adapt and how we understand.
So like from Atari to Xbox.
Right.
As my husband would say.
So we're doing the Xbox assessment right now.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cabello. Commissioner Garcia, and then we'll return to our...
Yeah, I just have would you be open to maybe just having a quick meeting with BSL to discuss how the data gets read and how the data can be then now interpreted in a more plain way and more folks can now read it? Is that something that we can, because I know that we're trying to figure out how the data gets read.
I'd be happy to do that. My understanding the data goes to AQMD. The AB 617 is going to create a website that's going to have real-time data for the community to see, which is different than the pilot that Bureau Street Lighting is doing. So, but my understanding that data they're doing just goes straight to AQMD, but doesn't have a public-facing immediately right now.
That's where we're at, exactly. We're trying to, the public part of it.
Okay, yeah, happy to do that.
Thank you, Ottawa.
Go ahead, sir. I interrupted you with my question. Were you done?
No problem. No, my last page is just a summary of things coming.
Okay.
To give you a heads up.
Go ahead, and then we'll go to our speaker.
It's just, we got the hearing following up on the violations. We're going to have a contract come before you to do the annual inspections of drill sites, to have a consultant finish out evaluating the project. We're wrapping up the Jefferson zoning hearing. We wrapped up Rancho Park, but Jefferson's next. You'll have a RFP from SoCal Gas coming before you to do the valuation of the franchise as we're doing the franchise negotiations. The health study is coming. I anticipate next month that we'll have that ready to go to council. And then we are continuing to work with the sustainability team on evaluating data that's going into the new city sustainable city plan. And then budget hearings start this month, and we'll go through April and May. So,
okay, and then I will see you today about the letter that we discussed yesterday.
Great.
Okay. Dr. Williams, you have a card in. Go ahead. Dr. Tom Williams, everybody.
Yeah. Dr. Tom Williams, CCESC, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community. Over 10 years ago, we started because of 2 well blowouts in Culver City. And we've been watching it ever since and doing things. First off, get them a web page so that they can outreach to many communities, because there's 90 some odd neighborhood councils and most of them don't even know whether they have an oil well or not. Within 1/4 of a mile along my street, I have to pass a idled well. Idled well? What does that mean? It means that there is a well located under a house adjacent to Barrett Road. And it's never been plugged, never been abandoned, never been located other than, Dogger knows that there was a well there. Now, on Tuesday, I was in Sacramento with the Department of Conservation, Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources, known as Dogger. And the basic element was risk. What is the risk of more than 1,000 unknown wells in the city of Los Angeles? And will they go the same way that the one in Marina del Rey went when it blew out? Oh, by the way, CCSC worked with the SPR, Save Porter Ranch people, when Alicio Canyon blew out. However, one of the things I pointed out to the Dogger was that they had submitted false documents showing a shutoff valve at depth. False documents for over 10 years. And verification of the as is, as built, and as permitted must be provided.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Appreciate it. So the oral report will be received. Thank you, Mr. Intuck. Everyone have a nice weekend. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Then we are adjourned, everyone.